The greatest secrets of history are not buried in the ground. They are waiting inside the walls of ancient castles and cathedrals. The discovery of hidden chambers is fundamentally rewriting our understanding of the past. By the end of this journey, you will see how these long-forgotten spaces are changing archaeology forever, forcing us to reconsider everything from daily medieval life to grand political conspiracies. What does a sealed room next to a king's bedroom reveal about real power? How did a secret chapel, lost for centuries, preserve a forbidden faith? We are about to see the medieval world not as a static relic, but as a dynamic puzzle. What story from the past do you think is still waiting to be found? A hidden chamber is a story built in stone, a space designed to be invisible. It is not a room that was simply abandoned or fell out of use. It is an architectural secret crafted with the specific purpose of remaining unseen. Think of the priest holes built into the manor houses of Tudor England, where a small, cramped cavity behind a fireplace could conceal a person for days, a silent testament to a period of intense religious conflict. Or consider the secret passages woven through the thick walls of medieval castles, allowing lords to move unseen for espionage or sudden escape. Even a sealed crypt beneath a church floor, intentionally walled off from the living congregation, fits this definition. The crucial distinction lies in the intent. These spaces were deliberately concealed, often protected by ingenious mechanisms like pivoting stone walls, bookcases that swing on hidden hinges, or floorboards that lift to reveal a void below. Understanding this intentionality is everything. It separates a hidden chamber from a collapsed cellar or a forgotten attic. The very act of building a secret speaks volumes about the fears, the beliefs, and the private conflicts of the people who lived there. It sets the stage for why finding one today is so revolutionary. But to find a story that was meant to stay lost, you need the right key. This new era of discovery hinges on a simple, powerful idea: seeing through stone. For centuries, finding a hidden chamber meant taking a hammer to a historic wall, a destructive gamble that often damaged the very history it sought to uncover. Today, archaeologists wield tools that feel borrowed from science fiction. Ground-penetrating radar, or GPR, works like a sophisticated echolocator, sending radar pulses deep into the earth and reading the signals that bounce back to map buried rooms and passages as clearly as if they were holding a blueprint. From the air, LiDAR technology uses lasers to strip away forests and vegetation, revealing the ghostly outlines of entire lost settlements and the subtle bulges in castle walls that betray a hidden space within. Even the very temperature of a stone facade can tell a story. Thermographic cameras detect minute heat differences, where a void behind a wall might be slightly warmer or cooler than the solid stone around it, painting a thermal picture of the secret within. The most profound method taps into the universe itself. Muon tomography uses cosmic rays that constantly rain down on Earth, these subatomic particles passing more easily through empty spaces than solid rock, allowing scientists to essentially X-ray massive structures like the Great Pyramids to find previously unknown chambers. This suite of technologies has fundamentally changed the mission. Archaeology is no longer a process of educated guessing followed by destructive digging. It is now a precise, scientific investigation that preserves the priceless integrity of a site while uncovering its deepest truths. We can now ask a silent, ancient wall a direct question and receive a clear answer, an ability that is actively reshaping our understanding of entire historical periods. A king's public throne room was the stage for his power, but the real decisions were often made in a hidden room just a few feet away. These newly discovered chambers, tucked beside grand halls and royal bedrooms, are revealing that medieval governance was a delicate dance between public ceremony and private conspiracy. Imagine the scene in a 15th century castle. While courtiers gathered in the Great Hall for official announcements, the king might have slipped through a concealed door to meet with a handful of trusted advisors in a soundproof chamber. Here, far from the public performance of power, they would discuss treasonous plots, negotiate secret treaties, or plan the financial maneuvers that funded their wars. This architectural paranoia tells us that rulers often feared their own courts more than foreign enemies. The very design of their homes confirms that official titles and public hierarchies were only a part of the story. True authority was exercised in whispers within windowless rooms, a world of shadows that fundamentally challenges our textbook understanding of medieval politics. This evidence of power hidden in plain sight forces us to look beyond the political and into the spiritual, to the secret places where faith itself was forced into hiding. These spiritual hideaways often existed alongside spaces dedicated to a more worldly, but equally secretive form of security. Within the very walls of a great cathedral, a small door disguised as a cabinet could lead to a room where a banned form of worship was quietly practiced for generations. These are not stories of forgotten storage, but of active, dangerous devotion. In post-Reformation England, for instance, the homes of wealthy Catholic families frequently contained these secret chapels, known as priest holes. A wooden panel next to a fireplace would swing inward, revealing a tiny, dark cavity just large enough for a single person to hide for days while authorities searched the house. The discovery of such a space, perhaps with a simple cross scratched into the stone or the remnants of a wax candle, is a direct physical link to a time of intense spiritual conflict. It moves history from the abstract idea of religious persecution into the tangible reality of human risk and resilience. This evidence proves that the official religious landscape, the one recorded in royal decrees and church ledgers, was only the public performance. The private, deeply held beliefs of countless individuals created a far more complex and contested spiritual world, one that survived in silence and shadow. These hidden rooms do more than just tell us what people believed. They show us the immense lengths they were willing to go to protect their faith. And just as these sacred secrets were concealed for safety, so too were the vast fortunes that funded both kingdoms and crusades, leading to the hunt for the medieval world's most secure vaults. But the need for secrecy extended far beyond faith and politics, reaching into the most basic human instinct for survival. Tucked away from the grand halls and chapels were chambers built for one simple, brutal purpose: to preserve life in the face of imminent danger. In a world where the walls of a castle could be breached at any moment, a lord's most secure space was often a small, unadorned room hidden behind a tapestry or a false section of wall. This was the medieval equivalent of a panic room, a final refuge during an attack or an internal coup. Imagine the sound of alarm bells ringing through cold stone corridors, the distant clash of steel, and a noble family hastily gathering their most precious items before disappearing into a cavity within their own home. These spaces were not merely closets, they were feats of practical engineering. Many contained a small cache of dried food and water, perhaps drawn from a hidden cistern linked to a rainwater channel. The most sophisticated featured a narrow escape tunnel that would empty out far beyond the castle walls, a last desperate bid for freedom. The very architecture of these hideaways speaks to a pervasive climate of fear, where even the most powerful individuals lived with the understanding that their security was fragile. Every carefully concealed door and stocked supply cache is a silent testament to the nights spent listening for the sound of approaching danger. This constant undercurrent of threat shaped how they built their homes and how they protected their families, revealing a side of medieval life that official chronicles often glossed over. And within these secure spaces, they often guarded their most valuable possessions, not just gold and jewels, but objects whose true worth was known only to them, sparking the most compelling quests of modern archaeology. The true treasure of a hidden chamber is not measured in gold coins, but in the silent words it has guarded for centuries. We have been conditioned by stories of overflowing chests and glittering jewels, yet the reality uncovered by modern archaeology is far more illuminating. Time and again, when a long-sealed space is finally opened, the most precious find is not bullion but paper and parchment. These rooms were not treasure vaults in the popular sense, they were archives. The perfect preservation found in these dark, climate-controlled environments is a historian's dream. A sealed chamber acts as a natural time capsule, protecting fragile documents from the damp, light, and insects that would have destroyed them anywhere else. The true wealth is the information itself, an unedited library from the past. Imagine uncovering a merchant's complete ledger from the 1400s, detailing every transaction, every debt, and every trade route. This single book can rewrite our understanding of medieval economics, revealing the real flow of goods and money that powered kingdoms. Or consider the profound value of a noble family's private letters, tied with a ribbon and hidden away. These are not the formal proclamations written for public record, but the intimate whispers of daily life, fears about an illness in the family, advice on a political alliance, or the cost of repairing a roof. They offer an unfiltered, deeply human view of history that no royal chronicle can ever provide. This is the fundamental shift in archaeological priorities, a move away from seeking shiny objects and toward valuing pure knowledge. A single page from a hidden archive can tell us more about the texture of everyday life than a room full of untouched gold. This new perspective forces us to reconsider not just what was hidden, but why entire communities would sometimes choose to vanish, leaving behind only the silent architecture of their world. Dover Castle stands as a silent sentinel over the English Channel, its stone walls holding stories we are only just beginning to hear. Recent surveys using ground-penetrating radar have painted a ghostly map of its interior, revealing a network of voids and passages hidden within the Great Keep. These are not empty spaces, they are missing chapters. Historians now believe these chambers could have served as emergency storerooms, packed with supplies to withstand a prolonged siege, ensuring the fortress could hold out even when completely surrounded. Another compelling theory suggests they were secret mustering points, where knights and men-at-arms could gather unseen before launching a surprise counterattack from within their own walls. Perhaps most intriguing is the possibility of an early intelligence post, a hidden room with a strategic view of the channel, where watchmen could monitor ship movements and gather information far from prying eyes. Each potential function tells a radically different story about the castle's true purpose. It was not merely a defensive bulwark, but a living, breathing nerve center for the entire region's security and secret diplomacy. The process of confirming these spaces is a lesson in modern scientific patience. Teams spend months analyzing the radar data, comparing it with historical building records, and using thermal imaging to build a complete picture before any physical investigation begins. This meticulous, evidence-based approach stands in stark contrast to the destructive searches of the past. Today's goal is not to simply find a room, but to understand its story without disturbing a single stone, preserving the very history we seek to uncover. There is a single, irreversible moment that every archaeologist both anticipates and dreads. It is the instant a sealed chamber is physically breached. The air that rushes out is a ghost, a breath held for centuries, and with its release, a perfect preservation environment vanishes forever. This is the central ethical dilemma of modern archaeology. The power to find these spaces comes with a profound responsibility, forcing a choice between satisfying our immediate curiosity and preserving a time capsule for the future. The artifacts inside, whether fragile parchment, delicate textiles, or ancient wall paintings, have survived precisely because they were forgotten. Their stability depends on a consistent, dark, and often dry microclimate. The moment light and modern air touch them, they can begin to decay within hours. A scroll that was legible for 500 years might crumble to dust in 5 days. This has sparked a difficult debate within the field. Do we open a chamber now to learn what it holds, or do we seal it back up and wait for technologies we cannot yet imagine, tools that might allow us to explore it without ever breaking a seal? This question has given rise to the concept of virtual archaeology. Using advanced scanning and three-dimensional modeling, we can now create perfect digital replicas of a hidden space, allowing everyone from scholars to schoolchildren to walk through it without causing any harm. It is a way of honoring the past by leaving it untouched. This thoughtful, patient approach marks a fundamental maturation of the entire discipline. The goal is no longer simply to acquire objects but to steward stories. We are learning that sometimes the greatest act of discovery is to choose not to disturb. The air inside a sealed chamber is itself a historical artifact, holding particles and environmental data unchanged for hundreds of years. This pristine environment protects the most fragile treasures of all, the organic materials that compose the fabric of daily life. Out in the open, a wooden tool, a leather bag, or a woolen tunic would have been consumed by moisture, insects, and time, leaving behind only rusted nails or broken pottery as clues. But within the silent, dry darkness of a hidden room, these objects survive in breathtaking detail. A recent discovery in a sealed turret room, untouched since the 15th century, revealed a rolled tapestry. When conservators carefully unrolled it, the deep blues and vibrant reds woven into the fabric were as rich and striking as the day they were made. In another case, a forgotten cavity beneath a merchant's house yielded a small collection of leather shoes, each one telling a story of the person who wore it, from the delicate stitching on a lady's slipper to the worn sole of a craftsman's boot. These are not just objects, they are intimate connections to the people of the past, allowing us to see the colors they loved and the craftsmanship they valued. We can finally move beyond the gray stone and cold metal that typically define the medieval world in our minds and begin to appreciate its true texture, a world filled with color, soft fabrics, and the personal possessions that made a house a home. This level of preservation even captures the microscopic, from pollen grains that reveal ancient diets to dust patterns that show how a room was used. Each sealed chamber is a snapshot, a moment frozen so completely that it feels less like studying history and more like stepping through a doorway into a world that has been waiting for us. The dust of centuries is more than just dirt. It is a library written in particles too small for the human eye to see. When a chamber is sealed, this microscopic world is frozen in time, and modern science has learned to read its stories. This is the realm of micro-archaeology, a field that treats ancient dust as a precious historical document. Within a single gram of sediment from a forgotten room, researchers can find thousands of pollen spores. Each tiny grain tells a story of the landscape outside the castle walls, revealing what crops were grown in the fields or what wildflowers grew in the meadows. They can identify fragments of wood ash from the hearth, telling us which trees were burned for warmth and light. They can even find traces of incense, allowing us to almost catch the scent of ceremonies that ended 700 years ago. This analysis extends to the very health of the people who lived there. Minute particles trapped in floor dust can offer clues about common ailments or dietary habits, painting a picture of daily life from the invisible debris it left behind. This approach fundamentally changes the scale of our inquiry. We are no longer just studying the grand architecture, but the air the builders breathed. The story of a hidden chamber is not confined to its stones, but is written in the pollen on the floor and the soot in the ceiling cracks, a narrative of an entire ecosystem preserved in silence. This microscopic evidence is now guiding researchers to the biggest questions of all, pointing them toward the most likely locations for history's next great discovery. A hidden door is more than a secret, it is a structural lie. The discovery of these chambers is forcing a complete rewrite of architectural history, proving that medieval engineers were not just master builders of grand cathedrals, but brilliant designers of intricate deception. Every concealed space required a profound understanding of physics and structural engineering. To carve a room from within a castle's main wall without compromising the entire edifice was a delicate, dangerous operation. It demanded precise calculations for load bearing, an intimate knowledge of materials, and a genius for visual trickery. The architect had to balance two opposing goals: the public need for a stable, imposing fortress and the private need for an invisible, secure cavity. This was not the work of simple stonemasons. It reveals a level of intellectual sophistication we are only now beginning to appreciate. These men were innovative problem solvers, engineering for both grandeur and necessity. A pivoting bookcase, for instance, is not just a clever hinge. It is a feat of counterweight and pivot mechanics disguised as furniture. A false floor over a hidden vault required an understanding of distributed weight that would not sag or betray the secret beneath your feet. This architectural duality reflects the very nature of medieval life itself, a world of public piety and private conspiracy, of official power and hidden influence. We can no longer view these structures as merely monumental. They are complex, layered puzzles where the most important stories were built into the walls themselves, waiting for the right key to turn. And that key is now turning, not with a crowbar, but with the silent, penetrating gaze of light and sound. A secret room can shatter a myth that has lasted 1,000 years. The term Dark Ages itself implies a time when the light of knowledge was extinguished, a long, bleak interim between the classical world and the Renaissance. Yet the evidence emerging from these sealed spaces tells a profoundly different story. Within a forgotten chamber of a remote monastery, researchers uncovered a scriptorium that had been deliberately concealed. This was not a simple storage closet, but a fully equipped workshop for producing illuminated manuscripts, complete with advanced chemical recipes for vibrant, long-lasting inks. The presence of such a space, active during a period supposedly defined by ignorance, reveals a continuous, vibrant thread of intellectual and artistic pursuit. It proves that the meticulous work of preserving and creating knowledge never truly stopped. It merely retreated from the chaos of the outside world. Consider the implications of a hidden workshop discovered within a merchant's house, its walls lined with intricate tools for working metal and glass. These were not crude implements. The precision and specialization of these tools speak to a level of technological sophistication that the Dark Ages label simply cannot contain. They point to a society where complex craftsmanship and specialized trade skills were not only practiced but valued highly enough to be protected and kept secret. Every trade route map found scrawled on parchment and hidden in a wall cavity, detailing connections from the Baltic Sea to the Mediterranean, further erodes the old idea of an isolated, stagnant Europe. These finds collectively paint a portrait of a dynamic, interconnected world, one facing significant challenges, certainly, but responding with remarkable resilience and ingenuity. The true darkness was not in a lack of innovation, but in the loss of so much of its evidence to time. Now, each hidden chamber we find turns on another light, illuminating a past that is far more complex, far more intelligent, and infinitely more interesting than we were ever led to believe. The next great discovery might not happen in a dusty archive, but on a home computer halfway across the world. This is the power of citizen science, a movement that is tearing down the ivory towers of archaeology and inviting everyone to become an explorer. High-resolution, three-dimensional models of ancient structures are now freely available online, digital twins of castles and cathedrals that anyone can download and inspect from every angle. Imagine a retired engineer in Toronto, meticulously rotating a virtual model of a Scottish fortress on her screen. Her trained eye catches a slight, almost imperceptible misalignment in the stonework high up on a turret, a detail that had been overlooked by generations of scholars physically walking the grounds. Her email to a research team prompts a new ground-penetrating radar survey, which confirms her suspicion: a hidden room containing a trove of 14th-century documents. This is not a hypothetical scenario, it has happened. This crowdsourced approach leverages the collective attention of thousands, turning a global community into a massive, distributed research team. It democratizes discovery, proving that profound historical insight is no longer the sole province of those with a doctorate and a trowel. The most important tool in archaeology today is not a radar unit, but shared curiosity. This collaborative spirit, blending professional expertise with public passion, is accelerating our understanding of the past at an unprecedented rate, ensuring that no secret chamber, no matter how cleverly concealed, will remain hidden for long. The mortar holding these stones together can tell its own story. Unlocking the full narrative of a hidden chamber now demands a dream team of experts, a fusion of talents that would have been unthinkable just a generation ago. The archaeologist who first discovers the space is merely the beginning. A materials scientist steps in to analyze the composition of the mortar, tracing its mineral content back to a specific quarry and revealing ancient trade routes. A chemist carefully swabs the walls, identifying microscopic residues of oils, wines, or pigments that hint at the chamber's last use. High above, a dendrochronologist examines the wooden beams supporting the ceiling, matching the growth rings in the timber to a master chronology of European forests to pinpoint the exact year the tree was felled. This is not a chain of separate investigations, but a single, synchronized conversation between fields. While these specialists work, a team of digital artists uses their data to build an immersive, three-dimensional model of the chamber as it originally appeared, allowing us to walk through a space that has been dark for 700 years. This collaborative approach means a single, silent room can generate a torrent of interconnected data. From the pollen trapped in the floor dust, we learn about the medieval climate and local agriculture. From the metal analysis of a broken latch, we understand period metallurgy and workshop techniques. The story of the chamber is no longer a single thread, but a richly woven tapestry combining threads of science, art, and history. This is the new frontier of historical inquiry, where the silos between the sciences and the humanities are crumbling. The most profound secrets of the past are not revealed by a single expert with a single tool, but by a chorus of voices, each interpreting a different part of the same magnificent song. A hidden chamber does more than rewrite history books, it can revitalize an entire community. When news breaks of a long-lost room discovered within a local castle, that single announcement sends ripples far beyond academic circles. The site, once a familiar stop on a standard tour, is suddenly transformed into a destination of international intrigue. Visitors arrive not just to see the old stones, but to stand at the threshold of a new discovery, to breathe the air of a space no one has entered for centuries. This surge of interest is a powerful economic engine. Local hotels fill with guests staying an extra night. Family-owned restaurants see reservations climb as tourists seek a meal after their exploration. The demand for specialized tour guides, bookshop souvenirs, and transportation services creates a wave of opportunity that supports the entire regional economy. This new revenue stream creates a virtuous cycle. A portion of the income generated is directly reinvested into the historic site itself, funding not only the ongoing research into the chamber, but also the vital, often expensive, conservation work needed to preserve the entire structure for future generations. The hidden chamber proves that our cultural heritage is not a financial burden, but a sustainable asset. It demonstrates that investing in the mysteries of the past can build a more prosperous and resilient present, ensuring that the stories within these walls continue to be told for centuries to come. This tangible value raises a profound question about the very nature of discovery and who ultimately gets to claim the treasures we unearth. A home is a fortress of domestic life, but in medieval Spain, some houses held a far deeper secret. Recent investigations in ancient cities like Barcelona and Toledo have peeled back layers of ordinary plaster and stone to reveal extraordinary hidden chambers. These were not panic rooms or treasure vaults, but clandestine synagogues concealed within the fabric of seemingly unremarkable homes. During the brutal pressures of the Inquisition, when open practice of Judaism was forbidden, these spaces became sanctuaries of immense courage. They were typically located on an upper floor with no outward sign of their sacred purpose, a discreet window or an unadorned exterior masking the profound rituals within. Inside, the architecture itself whispered of a faith held in secret. A small niche carved into a wall would be meticulously oriented towards Jerusalem, providing a focal point for prayer. Researchers have found fragments of religious texts tucked into crevices, scraps of parchment that risked everything to preserve. The discovery of these rooms is more than an archaeological triumph. It is physical, undeniable proof of the crypto-Jewish communities that history often recorded only through the accusations of their persecutors. Here, etched into the very stone, is a story of cultural preservation against existential threats. It is a somber reminder that the drive to protect one's identity and beliefs can shape architecture as powerfully as the desire for power or wealth. These secret synagogues stand as a testament to resilience, showing us that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit found a way to build a space for light. That ghostly shape on the radar screen promises a hidden world, but it never speaks its name. Our most advanced tools can reveal an anomaly with stunning clarity, yet they cannot tell us what it is. A void detected by ground-penetrating radar could be the secret chapel we dreamed of, or it could be a natural water channel worn through the limestone over millennia. It might be the crumbled remains of an old garderobe, a simple latrine chute, or even a fiber optic cable buried during renovations in the 1980s. This is the fundamental challenge of modern archaeology, separating the signal of history from the noise of the earth itself. False positives are an inherent part of the process, and when a promising scan leads only to a pocket of fractured rock, the public disappointment can be palpable. It is a reminder that technology provides data, not stories. The true instrument of discovery remains the human mind, the archaeologist who must balance the digital readout with a deep knowledge of historical context, architectural patterns, and simple ground truth. This critical partnership is our best defense against the allure of a compelling myth. It ensures that when a hidden door is finally opened, The story it tells is built on the solid foundation of evidence, preserving the integrity of both the past and the science that seeks to understand it. A museum case filled with polished swords tells only part of the story. The real transformation is happening as curators use these new discoveries to rebuild the atmosphere of secrecy itself. You do not just look at a display, you step into a reconstruction of a hidden chapel where the light is low and the air carries the faint, subtle scent of beeswax and old timber. A soundscape of distant, muffled chanting and the crackle of a single candle makes the space feel alive. This is not an exhibit, it is an experience. The true power of this approach lies in the smallest artifacts. A single wooden comb found in a sealed chamber, still tangled with a strand of hair, does more to connect us to a past individual than any royal scepter. It speaks of personal care, of a quiet moment stolen from a turbulent world. A set of worn gaming pieces tells a story of how people passed long hours in confinement, seeking simple pleasures and mental escape. Museums are now building entire narratives around these intimate objects, shifting their focus from grand political timelines to the textures of daily human experience. This immersive, story-driven approach is dismantling the old, dusty perception of history. It allows a visitor to understand the weight of silence in a priest hole or the desperate hope contained within a hidden synagogue. By recreating the emotional reality of these spaces, museums are ensuring that the profound lessons from hidden chambers resonate with a new generation, making the distant past feel vividly, undeniably present. Every concealed doorway reveals a deeper truth about the people who built it. The medieval mind did not hide things simply because it could, but because it had to, driven by a potent mixture of necessity and a profound cultural reverence for the hidden. Practical fears of attack or theft were immediate and visceral, but the motivation for secrecy ran far deeper than simple security. In an era where one's faith could be a death sentence or a whispered political opinion could lead to ruin, the ability to create a private world invisible to the community was a supreme form of empowerment. This was not just about safety, it was about sovereignty over one's own soul. To control a secret was to possess a kind of intangible power, a knowledge that set you apart and defined your identity against the pressures of the outside world. These chambers created a crucial boundary, a line between the public self that performed its duties in the Great Hall and the private self that prayed, conspired, or simply breathed in a space of its own making. This architectural separation speaks to a universal human need, one we recognize in our own locked diaries, password-protected files, and private social media accounts. We all understand the desire for a room of one's own, a sanctuary from the relentless gaze of society. When we study these hidden rooms, we are ultimately studying ourselves, tracing the timeless human impulse to carve out a small, sovereign territory where our truest thoughts and most vulnerable beliefs can exist unobserved and entirely free. The stones of a castle and the dust of the moon are now part of the same investigation. The very same technologies that reveal hidden rooms in medieval fortresses are being repurposed to explore the ultimate hidden chambers, the subsurface voids of other worlds. Ground-penetrating radar, so adept at mapping forgotten crypts, is being hardened for extraterrestrial missions. Its new purpose is to scan beneath the barren surfaces of the Moon and Mars, searching for vast natural lava tubes. These geological formations are the solar system's ready-made hiding places, offering potential shelter from cosmic radiation and extreme temperature swings for future human explorers. They could even serve as the perfect environment to preserve evidence of past microbial life, a discovery that would redefine our place in the universe. This is not science fiction, it is the logical extension of an archaeological revolution, back on Earth, the scope of discovery is also expanding dramatically. Orbiting satellites equipped with LiDAR and advanced imaging sensors are piercing through the densest rainforest canopies and the shifting sands of the most arid deserts. They are revealing the ghostly outlines of entire cities that have been swallowed by jungle growth or buried by dunes for 1,000 years. Each of these lost sites is, in essence, a collection of hidden chambers on a colossal scale. The mission has fundamentally changed. We are no longer just looking for a single secret room. We are learning to see an entire planet, and indeed other worlds, as a landscape filled with concealed stories. The quest that began with a tapping on a castle wall now reaches across the cosmos, proving that the drive to uncover what is hidden is a truly universal human trait. A sealed chamber's greatest threat is the first breath of modern air, but we no longer need to break the seal to step inside. A quiet revolution in digital archaeology is creating perfect copies of these fragile spaces, allowing us to explore them without causing a single moment of decay. Using a technique called photogrammetry, researchers take thousands of overlapping photographs of a room from every conceivable angle. Sophisticated software then stitches these images together, building a three-dimensional model of such high resolution that you can see the grain of the wood and the texture of the stone. This digital twin becomes a permanent record, a snapshot of the chamber in the exact state it was found, preserved forever against the ravages of time and human intrusion. This virtual record is then transformed into an immersive experience. Anyone, anywhere can put on a virtual reality headset and stand within a secret chapel, looking up at its hidden altar. You can kneel down to examine a set of forgotten gaming pieces left on the floor, or reach out to trace the faint scratch marks on a wall, all from your own living room. This is more than a novel way to view artifacts. It is a fundamental shift in accessibility. A student in a classroom in Tokyo can now spend an afternoon exploring a hidden room in a Welsh castle, turning and examining objects from angles that would be impossible even for a conservator physically present in the cramped space. This technology democratizes history, tearing down the barriers of geography, cost, and physical ability that have long kept these discoveries in an elite realm. It ensures that the story of a hidden chamber is not locked away in an academic journal, but is available for the whole world to experience, learn from, and protect, creating a global community of stewards for these fragile pieces of our shared past. But does every new discovery truly rewrite history, or are we simply captivated by the thrill of the secret? It is a fair challenge from skeptics who see a focus on hidden rooms as a kind of academic trend, exciting but ultimately adding only footnotes to a story we already know. Can one sealed chamber really overturn centuries of established narrative? The power is not in any single room, but in the quiet accumulation of evidence. Think of it like a pointillist painting. From a distance you see the broad image, the familiar story of kings and conquests, but each hidden chamber is a single, meticulously placed dot of color. One reveals the quiet persistence of a banned faith. Another exposes the secret financial dealings that funded a war. A third shows us the personal keepsakes someone risked everything to protect. Individually, these dots are just details, but as more and more are uncovered, they begin to connect. The broad, familiar image starts to change, the colors deepen. New shapes emerge in the shadows. What seemed like a simple portrait of power becomes a complex, layered tapestry of human experience. This is not about sensationalism. It is about the slow, deliberate work of replacing assumption with evidence. A single document from a hidden archive might not alter the date of a famous battle, but a dozen such documents can completely reshape our understanding of why that battle was fought, how it was financed, and what its true human cost was. The grand narrative of history is not shattered by a single hammer blow. It is patiently remade, one rediscovered room at a time, until the story we tell is not just about what happened, but why it mattered to the people who lived it. The story of a hidden chamber is almost always told from the perspective of the person who used it. Yet the silent, enduring evidence points to a different author entirely. Look past the noble who commissioned the room, and you will find the true genius, the anonymous artisan whose hands carved deception from solid stone. These men were not simple laborers. To construct a pivoting wall that moved without a sound, or to build a vaulted ceiling in a secret room that would not betray its presence from the outside, required a profound understanding of geometry, physics, and material science. They worked without powered tools or computer models, relying on generations of accumulated knowledge passed down through apprenticeships. Every chisel mark on a hidden hinge, every perfectly cut stone that locked into its neighbor is a signature. And the most compelling part of their story is the immense burden they carried. The master mason who designed a lord's secret escape route knew that his own life likely depended on his silence. Revealing the location of such a chamber after its completion could be seen as an act of treason, a risk no patron would tolerate. This means these craftsmen took the methods for building the most sophisticated elements of their era with them to their final resting place. Modern archaeology is now decoding their silent testimony. By analyzing the unique sweep of a saw cut on a timber or the specific type of mortar mix used to conceal a door, researchers can trace the work of individual workshops, even specific craftsmen, across different sites. We can see where one team's technique begins and another's ends. This forensic approach does more than just identify builders, it restores their legacy. It moves them from the background of history as nameless manual workers and places them in the foreground as trusted, brilliant innovators. They were not just building walls, they were weaving the very fabric of secrecy that defined the age, and their unspoken contribution is only now being fully understood. The discovery of hidden chambers is far more than an academic footnote. It is a quiet revolution permanently reshaping our relationship with history itself. We no longer gaze upon a medieval castle and see a static, silent relic. We now perceive a dynamic puzzle box, its walls layered with deliberate secrets waiting for the right moment to speak. This fundamental shift, driven by technology that sees through stone and a collaborative spirit that connects scientists across the globe, is giving us a story of the past that is profoundly more intimate and human. It is a narrative built not just from royal decrees, but from the whispered conversations in a secret council room and the silent prayers in a hidden chapel. Every newly found space challenges a long-held assumption, rewarding our persistent curiosity with a clearer, more complex truth. History, it turns out, is never a finished book. It is a living manuscript where the most compelling chapters are still being revealed, page by page, from behind the walls. This is an open invitation to see the world around you with new eyes. Look closer at the old building on your street, question the seemingly plain surface, and remember that the greatest stories are often concealed in the most ordinary places. We would love to hear which historical mystery captures your imagination. Share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe to continue this endless journey of discovery together.